last chance to use this wonderful gavel. So can you please sit down, ladies and gentlemen? We have a lot to celebrate tonight. The first thing to celebrate is that Frank's able. The reports from the hospital are that he is fine. He had a long flight, he hasn't been feeling well, and the hospital believe it's dehydration. So let's give a round of applause to Frank. Okay, so tonight we honour the building industry participants who have, we have 3 different honours. We're honouring the best buildings from last year. We're giving out 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards, and then we are nominating and are awarding 3 Fellows of the Council for their work in the Council. You will see on your table a book, and every person gets a book claim ticket. As you go out, please hand that over and you will get a book, which is a fantastic piece of work that describes all the projects that were nominated for awards, not just the award winners. So I'm going to say a little bit at the end of the evening, but I'd like you to start your dinner. Enjoy yourself, and we're going to be showing the awards that you didn't see it this afternoon. We're going to extend that time frame a little bit so that all the award winners from each region are going to give a brief presentation about their buildings. So please enjoy your dinner, have a good evening, and I'll speak to you later in the evening.
Good evening. I'm really sorry to interrupt your conversations, but we're here to do some business tonight, and the business is handing over some awards to some very deserved people and very deserved projects. For those people that have just joined us this evening and not been at a very interesting first day of the conference, my name is Anthony Wood. I'm the Executive Director of the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat. However, I will not be speaking too much right now. I'm going to introduce you to our awards chair this year, who is Gordon Gill of Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill Architects. Could we please welcome Gordon to the stage?
Thanks very much. I'm going to try to be brief in order to give majority of the time to those of you who have won awards tonight. Before we get to those, I just want to take a moment to thank the jury, this year's jury. We collected about 6 folks, including myself, from around the world. It was a really fantastic experience for me personally. I'd like to acknowledge those people, most of whom I think are here tonight, starting with Ahmed Abdolzarak from Samsung. Tim Johnson, who is last year's chairman, who is away from his chair, but we'll get him again when he comes back. Matthias Schuler from TransSolar. Ken Shuttleworth from Make Architects in London was kind enough to help us out this year. And of course, we couldn't do it without Anthony Wood, who joined us on the council this year. I won't get into the details of the heated debates about awards, but it was quite fascinating. We're still having conversation about it. But it was a really great collection. I think we had over 100 entries this year. So it was very impressive. And even tonight, it's amazing to see the turnout for this event. Before we get to the first awards, I just want to take 1 second to thank 2 people who Anthony and I can testify have been a tremendous help this year. Steve Henry from CTBUH, who's right there underneath the camera, has been a tremendous effort still. And from our office, Peter Weissmantel, who kept everything running smoothly. Okay. We're going to start with the Lynn Beedle Award, the Lynn S. Beedle Achievement Award. This award recognizes an individual who has made extraordinary contributions to the achievement of tall buildings and the urban environment. This year's recipient is a world-renowned architect. You've seen him today. He founded his practice in 1953 in Atlanta, I think. I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm mistaken. His entire career has been devoted to architecture and urban design on what we consider to be an unprecedented scale and still responsive to human needs. His impact on the regeneration of cities around the world over the last several decades cannot be overstated. He has been a developer, a pioneer in designs of hotels and super tall structures around the world. And it is my honor to present this award this evening to Mr. John Portman, Jr.
I didn't design that. I didn't design that. But, you know, I'm real honored to receive it. But when you get a Lifetime Achievement Award, it really, you know, when you get my age and people start talking about lifetime. But looking back over my practice, I've been really blessed by having hundreds of really great people who contributed. This business is not a one-man show. It's a team effort. And we like to involve and bring all of our people together and work as a family and share. And I can't stand here and take this award without telling you that I've got some of the greatest people in the world, and I know everybody here will say they have too. That's okay. Thank you.
Our next award will be the Fazlur Khan Medal, recognizing excellence in design and research that has made a significant contribution to the design of tall buildings and the built urban environment. This particular award this year was very interesting for us. It was very tough for us. For those of you who know, we had a structural engineer on the jury, Ahmed Abdelzarak, and it was a fascinating discourse between the jurors on this selection. He is one of the pioneers of the ultra-high strength mega column. He's an author of numerous articles and publications on structural design. He is the 2008 American Institute of Steel Construction Lifetime Achievement recipient. This year's Faz Khan Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Dr. Banavalkar.
Thank you very much, Gordon. This honor has really not only touched me, but I'm a little bit surprised that I got this award myself. My career started actually in Chicago because I came to this country 45 years ago and first stopped in Chicago. That was my port of entry. So this award particularly makes it that more special to me. Having born in a family with a father and mother with a very limited resources, it's their sacrifice which allowed me to have the education that I received over a number of years. My two elder siblings set up an excellent standard of academic things for me, and my wife, who is in the audience today. For 41 years, her unyielding support, love, and patience, occasionally with certain amount of outbursts, have allowed me to follow my professional accomplishments. And not to forget about my son Ranjit, who was very instrumental in preparing my entry for this award. In Chicago, when I came, my baptism in a high-rise building really started at Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill. where I had a privilege of working with Dr. Khan himself and Hala Engar and many other excellent engineers. When I moved to Houston in 1970 after a doctorate degree from Cornell University, I was helped by Dr. Colasso, my former partner. And then I look back on it that the opportunity in life is perhaps one of the most important ingredient for anybody. I was very fortunate to have worked with national developers, good quality developers like Heinz, McGuire Thomas, Thomas Development, Brandywine. And it is those developers who really introduced me to the architects like Paycock Freed, Philip Johnson, Caesar Pelli, and Picard Chilton. The requirement by the developers that you have to design your buildings cost-effective and efficient, and the architects who wanted their architecture, precise architecture, to be followed, because these are big-time architects, really were the two demanding things in my entire career. And my entire success, whatever I have enjoyed, these were the cornerstones of my success as an engineer. I can't stop here by just thanking all these people, the number of engineers who worked for me over a number of years. They gave me a lot of grief, and I gave them a lot of grief too. And draftsmen and the contractors who made my project successful. Thank you all.
I think before we take a break with our main course and do the awards, we have one last group to recognize. We're going to recognize the Fellows for the Council in Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat. The Fellows are recognized as having contributed to the Council over an extended period of time, and in recognition of their work and sharing of knowledge in the design and construction of tall buildings and the urban habitat. We'd like to welcome Mr. Mir Ali, Irwin Cantor, Ryszard Kowalczyk to the stage to collect their certificates. Congratulations and thank you. Okay, we're going to take a break. Please enjoy your main course. I understand it's lobster. And we'll see you after that for the awards. Thank you.
Now we move on to the next part of the program, which is the recognition of the 4 regional best tall buildings in the world 2009. And I just want to briefly tell you what the criteria is for the 4 buildings that have won those awards this evening. They are projects that have made extraordinary contributions to the advancements of tall buildings and the urban environment, and that achieve sustainability at the broadest and highest level. The projects must also exhibit processes and/or innovations that have added to the profession of design and enhanced the cities and lives of their inhabitants. So, pretty major deal is what you can read from that. We're going to have the four project teams come up on stage to receive the awards. Because of what happened at the conference today, and the fact that three of the projects didn't get a chance to present, we're also going to have an approximately 5-minute presentation on each of those three projects. So I'm going to hand over to Gordon, who is going to announce the first award.
Okay, we're going to start with the Americas. This year from the Americas, this winner is the Manitoba Hydro Place from Winnipeg, Canada. Accepting the award would be Tom Gouldsborough, and presenting will be Bruce Corbara from KPMB, Toronto.
Thank you very much. This is an incredible honor. When we started this journey back in the fall of 2002, we really set out to try and, first of all, meet our business needs with this headquarters. We were looking for signature architecture. We wanted to demonstrate, we're a power company, so we wanted to demonstrate energy efficiency and sustainability. And also, how do we have maximum positive impact on downtown Winnipeg, where we're from? And last but definitely not least, we had to do this in something that was fiscally responsible for Winnipeg and for our company. To that end, we put together a phenomenal integrated design team. It was led by Bruce Corbara of KPMB, involved Smith Carter, Trans-Solar from Stuttgart, Germany. We also had Crozer, Kilgore, and Yoles partnered on the structural, and AECOM on the electrical mechanical. And the work of this team, along with some of our people here at Manitoba Hydro, worked through this and really have exceeded our design criteria and our expectations. So I'm accepting this on behalf of our team. Thank you very much. Bruce?
I'm going to take you through our project very, very quickly, and I just want to apologize because we're going to skip through a few things and only concentrate, just in the interest of time, on a very few things. But let's say this, the biggest lesson that I learned in this is that we went through a formal integrated design process, and everyone says, oh, we're always doing that. Well, you're not. I mean, you always say you're doing it, but you don't actually do that, and I think there's great credit to Manitoba Hydro for actually having the discipline to follow through on what they said they were going to do. So they hired, I think, a lot of really talented engineers and architects and landscape architects, but most importantly, we had one of the leading energy consultants in the world, Trans-Solar, out of Stuttgart, and Thomas Auer flew from Germany to be here with us, but he's our secret weapon, actually, because he's a great thinker. Okay, so let's move through this. They're going to be very, very quick. I'm not even going to dwell on many. You know, we are the center of North America. I thought of all our American friends would enjoy that. Chicago of the North, but this is what we're dealing with. You know, an extreme climate. I mean, I remember Trans-Solar saying, we've never seen anything like this. It's minus 35 degrees Celsius, and it can be plus 35 degrees Celsius. They've never seen anything like it. Next. These were their graphs right from the beginning with the windrows, which comes from due south. Totally counterintuitive. We Canadians think it comes from the Arctic, from the northwest. The reality is it comes from you. It comes from the south. This was the question. Keep going. I'm going to just hop skip. This was our big team. You saw them. There's a great management book, one of the few management books I actually read, which is called Organizing Genius. And I believe it's the way in which people have to think about problem solving for integrated design. It's by Warren Bennis, an American. Next. These were Public Works Canada's spheres of what we should be achieving if you're doing an office building. We said it's not enough. You need architecture, and you certainly need urban integration, because ultimately every building implies a city. It's what John Portman said. It's about city building, ultimately. It's not about one building on one site. Next. We asked this question early. Next. This is Winnipeg with two rivers, the Red and the Assiniboine River, and Portage Avenue, which is one of, it really is a, wants to be Michigan Avenue. And it has Portage and Main, and Hydro picked the site dead center because Winnipeg needs a lot of revitalization. They picked it on Portage, and it's also on the Graham Avenue Transit Mall, which becomes a key factor because we're consolidating 2,000 people who are in about 15 locations in the suburbs. So when Winnipeg Hydro was taken over by Manitoba Hydro, the mayor of Winnipeg then negotiated the idea that they would build their headquarters downtown, and Manitoba Hydro agreed, understanding that it would have a huge impact on the economy and culture of downtown. Next. These are again Transolars. It looks like the Battle of Troy or something like that, but these are arrows that are indicating the wind coming from the south, and the formation of the building, which has been described as a capital letter A, and some people have described it as an open book, but it sits on a podium, which is 2 and 3 stories. It has its narrow edge on Portage Avenue. It's almost like a flat iron building. And within the capital letter A, there's a west loft and an east loft, and down the middle are all of the things that make this building healthy and sustainable and drive the ventilation system. Next. This is it. You see the river, Portage, Graham, Transit Mall. 95% of all the buses come through transit, and now 50% of the Hydro employees who are coming downtown are taking the bus. They're saying they've never read as much in their lives. We provided very little parking because one thing that Winnipeg has is lots of parking. We did not put in a staff cafeteria, which really angered a lot of people, but what it did is it really affects the economy of 45 restaurants that are in 4 minutes walking distance. Okay, next. And the building actually splays and opens to the south because Winnipeg gets more sunlight than any major Canadian city. It just gets that. That's what Transolar identified, and they said we have to harness that energy. So what we did is we splayed the building. The west wing becomes very public on the ground floor, linking the transit mall inside, has very little retail on it. We did not want to draw in the city into the building. All the retail is facing outboard, and we made a triangular park, which is great because it actually invites other users to participate in this site. Next. 2 renderings showing the open end of the A with 3 stacked atriums which are related to an idea about a vertical campus at 6 floors above a base, and the Portage Avenue facade, which is very much like a flat iron building. It noses onto the street and has very little shadow impact. That's another reason we picked it. The podium really deals with a lot of the microclimate of wind. Next. In the city, still being completed there. We've opened the building. Everyone's moved in. Next. A great diagram that we finally got to really understand what we're doing. We have decoupled heating and cooling from ventilation. It's a concrete high-rise building. We have the largest geothermal application in the country, 280 holes drilled to 400 feet depth at 15-foot centers under an urban site. And there are 1-inch diameter pipes in tubes in the concrete, 10-inch concrete slabs. And the slabs are kept at 20 degrees Celsius year-round, no matter whether it's minus 30 or plus 30. We have 100% natural ventilation coming in because of the south prevailing winds into those atriums. It stratifies. We have rises. We have 100% raised floor, so it's displacement ventilation. And we have a very high performance building envelope. We have windows that open. Windows that open. We have basically buffer walls on the west face and the east face, and everywhere else it's triple glazed primarily. And then you see the solar chimney, which drives the ventilation system. So air comes into the atriums. Sometimes it's preheated if it's minus 20. It goes into the raised floors, it stratifies, it hits bodies, it warms up, and is drawn across the building to the solar chimney. We have a passive preheat function in the top of the chimney, which is basically a whole grouping of hollow section steel tubes with sand in them. That's passive preheating. They're painted black. Next. And it becomes the icon. So when people were talking about spires and heights, ours really drives the environmental systems of the building besides being the tallest part of the building. Next. Here's our performance. That buildings, we're shooting for a 60% reduction in energy consumption from the Model National Energy Code building standard, and we're actually overachieving the target. We're actually achieving it in a way that will drive our energy usage down below 90 kilowatt hours per square meter per year, when most buildings in Winnipeg and around most in North America are like 500, 600 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. I mean, you know, this is really big and really green. Next. And the way you do it is you go passive. Okay, next. Just keep skipping. So this is the concept of the vertical campus. 3 prototypical 6-story atriums subdivided with north atriums that are 3 stories and usable year-round with interconnecting stairs in each of the atriums. Next. The west wing, which is public and open, some people have called it the cathedral, a canopy that actually mitigates the south wind as it comes down the face of the atriums, and we protect the park. Next. The gallery, the green roof, the park. Next. We recycled 92% of the material of the buildings that were demolished on site. We sought a LEED gold and we'll get a LEED platinum. Next. The interconnecting stairs in the north atriums. Next. People gather in the north atriums. They're very, very comfortable, and you look over the green roofs and towards Portage and Main. Next. It's about teams of people. That's why you make a sustainable building. It's not about energy consumption and all that. It's really about people, because that's the highest cost of any organization. Everybody knows that. And it's the creative talent, the knowledge workers who are coming downtown that make Winnipeg have a chance. Next. The atriums, this is really great. This is our humidification and dehumidification in the south atriums. Unitized curtain wall, double glazed on the outside, single glazed on the inside. These are the lungs of the building. These are winter gardens. Next. Hope to run this little film next. See if it goes. Does it go? No, they're searching. What they are 6 floors, 188 strands of mylar, where the water is coming from the top down, adhering to the mylar into a pool and then being filtered and recycled. And the surface area is calculated to humidify the dry winter air as it comes in. We chill that water in the summer and it basically dehumidifies. Okay, skip it and go to the next. Go back. There it goes. So this is what I think the future is about, really about the integrated thinking about not only environmental systems, but things which appear and are very much part of the environment we share. Next. There's the pit. We're very excited about that and the passive preheat of the solar chimney. I think those were real innovations within the project. The green roofs and the tower, the windows that open. Next. Again, the windows that open. It's an event in the city when the windows open. And next. And next. And here's our team. We had our group portrait in the buffer wall. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to the next award. If you could humour me for a second. I think everybody in this room will remember where they were on the events of 9/11. I can tell you where I was. It was my first day as an academic at the University of Nottingham in the UK. My first day on the job. And, you know, the images of 9/11 were all pervading all around the world. Not long after 9/11, an idea formed in my mind. It wasn't an original idea. It was an idea that had been there for at least 100 years. And the idea was about connected towers. And Ron earlier today mentioned about the 2003 Kuala Lumpur and this crazy guy from England saying, hey, sky bridges, a la Petronas Towers. I think it's completely nonsensical that we go for ever taller, ever denser towers where the ground plane is the only plane of physical connection. And the reason I want to say that is because perhaps a year or two after 9/11 and after I actually started a PhD on this subject, I remember seeing an image. And the image was of the linked hybrid building in Beijing. It was actually an image of a model, or perhaps a photo montage, which showed 7 linked towers connected, 7 towers connected at the upper level by sky bridges. And I just thought that this was incredible. This was the way that cities need to go, where we need a connected framework where buildings are connected and talk to each other. So it's personally my great honour to recommend, to invite Stephen Holl to the stage to collect the award for the best tall building in Asia, which is the linked hybrid building, Beijing.
It's an honor to be here, and I have to say, my partner from Beijing, Li Yu, is here with me, and Dr. Zhao Kongzhen, the engineer, and representing Transolar. What's really interesting about tonight is the problematic of the measure, right? And tall is not necessarily the measure. And I really like to follow this this presentation of Mr. Kuwakaba because he has 288 wells, but we have 688 wells. It's almost as if something fundamental has changed, and the HVAC, the MEP, whatever you want to call, is just as, if not more important than the structural. The structural is very important. So this idea of the architect, the structure, and the MEP. So the MEP takes, so anyway, I want to show quickly the building. It's a very important site in Beijing, right on the first ring road. That was the old wall that Mao tore down. And that's the site that when you go from the airport, that's one of the first projects you see. Next. And the developer had a factory site. We didn't take any hutongs down. I don't believe in that. It was a kind of a brownfield site. And he had a zoning diagram of 8 towers, 800 apartments, and asked us to come and do a kind of skin job on the towers. You know, a famous architect does a skin job, something interesting, iconic. And I said, I'm not interested in that. If you would like us to do a kind of very thorough visionary project. So this is kind of process models. And finally, we added many things to the program, like a cinematheque right in the center, like a hotel that wasn't in the program, shops all around the base. Next. And basically, the premise is that Beijing is a city that was once horizontal. And in 1920, around 1949, Mao lifted the restriction that you couldn't build higher than the Forbidden City. That means you could start building towers. But Beijing is becoming a city of point towers, and many of them are gated communities. And this is wrong, we feel, and we want to make some kind of horizontal city that's much more socially connected and socially defining space. That's a key core drive. Next. So this was the first sketch, and that is the idea of on the street, shops, and a secondary level, maybe offices, and a third level. So this is very different than the problem of, let's say, Minneapolis and sky bridges. There's so much density in Beijing that you can have plenty of shops on the street, and our idea of porosity at the street is very important. But you could also have in the air. It's not to take away the activity on the street. In fact, we feel very strongly, urbanistically, the street activity is key. Next. So there you see the model, you see the bridges that are connecting the 8 towers. By the way, I never built anything this tall. 22 stories to me is very tall. I'm a professor of architecture at Columbia University. I do some museums and some houses. So this was a big piece of work. So what we really felt that we have to push it to the limit. So we proposed all these different functions at the top. Next. You can see there's a swimming pool, there's a health club, there's restaurants, cafes, the whole a range of different activities that go, and you come up the hotel, and you can go around the loop, a semi-public loop. Next. And the idea of the structure, I always feel that structure is 25% of the architectural budget, and it ought to have some meaning in the expression of the building. So this is an exoskeletal frame. You can see the earthquake loads here are 9. They're very high, so we have the diagonal bracing exposed, but otherwise it's about the windows. Next. And framing the space. There's the Cinematheque in the center. Next. So this program then is all added. It felt like a Columbia University student project. I said, well, you must have a Cinematheque, you must have a hotel, you must also have all these bridges, you have to have, we added all these things to the program, and the client, Jean Lay, said, okay, we want to build it all. That's Beijing, just before the Olympics. The climate's a little different right now, but next. You can see the circulation. I won't go into in detail, but connecting up and down. Next. And porosity. For me, a concept of a city is about porosity. That is, being able to move through. That buildings shouldn't be so big. And I say no bigger than a New York City block, 200 feet, and then you can move through. So all this is about porosity, moving in and moving out, so everyone can come in, go to the shops. Next. The central spaces. Next. There's the Cinematheque, 400 seats, 3 cinemas. Next. This has 680 geothermal wells, 100 meters deep. At the time, the largest geothermal array in China. And it's up and running, and it's cooling and heating the entire project. Not only that, it has a gigantic ultraviolet filter tank, and every apartment has 2 plumbing systems. That means all the gray water is recycled. We have enough to make up the gigantic pond in the middle. We can green water all the landscape. And when we did the calculations, we found, amazingly, we have enough to also flush the toilet. So Beijing is a place of water shortage. I think this is the future. I think every city is going to have to think about water, and this is a project that's a kind of model of that. Next. There they are putting in the radiance in the slabs. There's radiance in the slabs. And Matthias Schuler pushed us on this, and the client, that the heating should be in the slab and the cooling should be in the ceiling. That's very expensive, but they did it. Next. And this is the recycled, and you don't smell anything. The ultraviolet system totally zaps it. The ducks love it. They would not be there if the water was dirty. So people are enjoying it. The water is working very well. This will freeze in the wintertime and become an ice skating ring. Next. And we also did the landscape. There's not enough time for me to explain it, but it's the kind of 5 phases of life, from childhood to adolescence to middle age to old age to infinity. This is a kind of memorial place, an infinity space. Next. The most difficult thing we thought would be the bridges, but in fact it turned out, because of our great engineer, to be the easiest thing. Just build them on the ground and jack them into place. So how many tons? 400 tons? 300 tons on the ground, frame, jack in 8 hours. Next, hydraulic crane jacks that are only about as big as this podium, pull the bridges up in about 8 hours was the longest one. Next, secured in place, no problem. And on Dean Ordenson's rockers for the earthquakes, absolutely no problem. So what we thought would be the most difficult thing was not. Next. There's the kind of first time we could walk through all the 8 towers and do the whole circuit through. Wonderful feeling of space, of public space at the top level. Next. And that's just a recent view. Next. And the water garden, you can see. Next. And the Cinematheque, because it's a cinematic experience, and I really believe that you must experience architecture in the round and in the whole, and this is really about forming a public space. It's not about a singular building, and so the cinema is a kind of analogy of what the project is. So putting a Cinematheque in the center next is really a key thing. And the detail for me, the haptic realm, the sort of phenomenology, that's why I love to be in this Mies building today, and I'm very proud that you have this ceremony in a building where one architect who had so many ideas but always cared about the detail and the material. Mies. Next. There's the bottom of the Cinematheque, and I think next. This is when you come out of the parking garage, you want to feel like you're in someplace. So the elevator, you arrive in these little kind of what I call tea houses, but then you have a view of where you're at. So it's something experiential. You're at the water garden, you came up out of a 2,000 car? How many cars? 2,000 car parking garage, but you arrive somewhere next. And I'm just standing after I arrive from the park, you see the Cinematheque, you understand the whole place. You're not just arriving in a dark stairway. So it's all the experience of the person. And I also connect with John Portman's speech about the experience of people and how they live in a place. Very, very important to me as well. Next. And just some shots of just the places. It's very hard to show this in individual images. Next. And that's a wide angle distortion kind of image. But it's really about a space, and it's about forming a public space that has several layers and several experiential dimensions. Next. So in the bridges, we have different activities. Next. And already they're programming small activities and different events and theatrical events in these bridges, along with the spas. So these things are going to be kind of spontaneous places for things to happen which we don't know. Next. So you can see those spaces, they are semi-public and they connect everything in the project. Next. The hotel, there's the Cinematheque. All the buildings have green roofs. They're just now installing the green roofs on the other buildings. Next. And at night, the thing takes a kind of second life. We use the undersides of the bridges for lighting as well. Hervé Descott did the lighting from L'Observatoire from Paris. Next. And just the idea of using that urban mirror, the water itself, as also a reflecting section. Next. And how it fits into the urban frame is very important to me. And I'm sorry you can't see it, but these are two existing urban buildings that are part of the grid, and how you feel when you come upon this other space. Next. And everything was made in China except the roll-down shades, which were made in Germany, because Matthias Schuller had insisted we have to have roll-down shades that come down when the sun is too hot, and they had to bend over and do that. So next, I'm very happy. Those are so beautiful, but I'm sure the Chinese will find a way to copy those right now. So, thank you.
Okay, our next category is the European group. We had a number of fantastic entries this year, and this year's winner from London is Broadgate Tower. Presenting will be Timothy Pohl from Skidmore, and accepting the award on behalf of the team, Jeffery McCarthy from Skidmore, Owings, Merrill, Chicago.
Thank you, Gordon. And thanks to the jury for their kind consideration of our project. Behind me is Tim Pohl. He was the studio head on this project. Lynn Bakey, our project manager. Ron Johnson, the senior structural engineer for our firm. This is an unusual project. It had one of the longer gestation periods of any of our projects. Our first scheme was developed in 1986 for this project. As Ken Shuttleworth or Anthony Wood would tell you, the planning process is rigorous in London, and yet I think that it makes for better solutions ultimately at the end of the day. This building actually had 5 detailed planning applications until we finally came up with a solution that suited the times and the client. The context, as with most projects in London, was very difficult. The lateral context, a very difficult site. The context at the top, view corridors from St. Paul's, although the context at the base was probably the most difficult, as 95% of the site was located over the British Rail approaches to Liverpool Street Station. So clearly this was a scheme that demanded a very innovative structural solution. It was in 1995 that we actually built what we call the raft, or the transfer plane that actually made the site, constructed the site over the rail lines. And the first 4 schemes were actually schemes that were only 13 stories tall. Fortunately, the structural raft that we actually constructed at the end of the day had the flexibility and to accommodate much taller buildings. I regret that British Land and M3 Consulting, the development manager, can't be here today. But we're very grateful for their patronage, and as they're not here, I'll thank all the clients that came here. If you're a client and you're here, you've got a building that is truly innovative and demands the sort of talent that you're surrounded by here. It's these sort of projects I think that we all love, these technically and contextually demanding projects. So I'll thank them, and I'll thank all of you for continuing to challenge us all in our professions. So thank you for that. There are people not here that were involved in the project for many, many years. I thank you all too. Some of you are on the floor, some past colleagues, some current colleagues, and I'll let Tim tell you a little bit more about the building. Again, thanks to the jury for their very kind consideration of the very difficult context that gave birth to this building, and for recognizing our solutions. I thank you for that. Tim Pohl will tell you about the building. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff. I promise to be brief. We don't have any wells, so it should be a little bit shorter for me. As Jeff mentioned, the project is 2 on Bishopsgate and the Broadgate Tower. The award is for the Broadgate Tower. However, the project was designed as 2 separate buildings that shared the same raft. Next, please. The project is located around Liverpool Street Station. You can see to the right. It actually forms a section of Broadgate Estate, which is in the lighter blue, which is 4.5 million square feet and comprised over 32 buildings. The project site we had is the site shown in red. Next. This is a drawing showing Broadgate Estate and various buildings, Liverpool Street Station in the center, and then the tracks arrive into the station from the north, which leaves the bulk of our site as an open site. It was an air right site, and so the project really was about creating and healing a scar in the city and creating a site where one didn't exist before. Next. It is well situated, appropriate to public transport, as the drawing show. The image on the right shows another major constraint on the project, and that was a view corridor in which limited the height of any building underneath the blue area to about 13 stories. As Jeff mentioned earlier, the project was envisioned as a 13-story ground scraper. However, when the market started to change, we looked for other opportunities to go high, and that really left a very small sliver of space in the right there that would allow us to place a tower. Next, please. Images of the raft as it was being constructed in 1995. You can see it sort of being slowly encapsulated along the bottom image. Next, please. The various planning consents that we received and got over what ended up being about 15 years of time. As we heard this morning, these things are incredibly expensive, and they do take a great deal of time to acquire. But finally, in 2005, we decided to make a move forward. Next slide, please. Brief timeline of the project. We submitted for planning in February of 2005. This is the largest speculative office building ever undertaken in the City of London. We actually started construction only 9 months later after we had submitted for planning. Didn't even have planning consent before we started on site. The steel was topped out 19 months after the beginning of construction, and practical completion was 33 months later in August of 2008. Next, please. Detailed image showing the site specifically with the view corridor showing really the only possible location for a tower on that site. Next, please. The ground floor plan showing the 2 various buildings, the tower on the left and the 201 building on the right. The 201 building on the right is a 13-story building. Both buildings comprise of about 400,000 net square feet each. Next, please. The section here is showing that the tower really begins to describe one of the other major constraints, and that is the fact that the entire tower, almost the entire tower, is built over the raft, which means it doesn't have a basement. There's no place to bring things down. As the raft was built, it was designed to support a 13-story building. However, after it was constructed, we came up with the idea of putting a tower on there, and the challenge was really finding a way to take all the load which the raft was designed to take and move that somewhere else. And by came the idea of this transfer structure, which bypassed the raft entirely underneath the tower footprint and gave rise to the center Galleria space between the tower and the low-rise building. Next. Structural model showing the transfer structure. It's a bit odd looking, and it's also a bit kind of interesting to watch the thing being built. Next slide, please. Seeing entirely an entire facade of columns being transferred out. Not one column on the east facade goes straight down. They all get transferred out and are bearing right on top of existing caisson line down below the raft. Next slide, please. We see the building going up. Next slide, please. Another interesting aspect of building over a railway line is every bit of structure sat on a rubber bearing to control the vibration that was created by the trains below. Nothing could touch the raft that touched the building. All the slabs, all the structure, absolutely everything that had to be isolated from the raft itself. You can see on the upper right-hand side one of the nodes going in with the vibration isolation. Next slide, please. And there's the building in its completed state. It is the third tallest building in the City of London at about 165 meters. Tower 42, which is in the middle, is about 183 meters. And 30 St. Mary's Axe, or the Gherkin, is 180 meters. Next, please. The views from the north. The building draws its inspiration and its architectural expression from its context. To the north of the building was a bridge of the Victorian era that nobody wanted to touch and is nearly listed. That's the image on the right-hand side. And on the left, directly south of this, was another SOM project that did span the railroad tracks that Bruce Graham did in the mid-1980s. Next slide, please. The materials chosen were stainless steel and glass for obvious reasons. The structure of the tower is an externally braced frame. We chose to clad the building with stainless steel to express what was going on the inside of the building as well as with the structural frame. Some early ideas and concepts we had out there were to actually design it and use solid stainless steel structure and expose it to fire engineer, but for cost reasons that wasn't possible. Next, please. In between the two buildings is a large public space. Again, a lot of care was taken to give public space back to the city. The site itself is about 2.5 acres. More than half of that site was given back to the city as a means of public space. It also created a vital link from the transportation hub of Liverpool Street Station to the emerging districts of Shoreditch to the north. Next, please. When you're within the public space, it's covered. It's gallery space. It's formed by 1/2 of the transfer structure. Inside the public space, next please, are a series of wine bars, cafes, and shops to sort of liven it and create a destination as well as a passageway. Next, please. Images of the Galleria space and the structure coming down. Next, please. Again, you can sort of see the massive size of this transfer structure as it comes down. It really is a phenomenal thing to walk up against and see and sense the entire weight of a 35-story coming down and being transferred out. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. We can keep going. The entrances to both buildings are from the south and off of this plaza, the tower to the left and the 2-1 building to the right. Next, please. Once you enter into the lobby is nearly 5 stories in height and is formed largely by the transfer structure. Because it's built on a raft, there was no location really for elevator pits, so we actually had to sort of raise the ground level once you got into the lobby to the 2nd and 3rd story. We also had to incorporate double-decker lifts because the floor plate was very, very small on the tower, and to save space we did that. We actually installed the very first in the world double-decker lifts that were controlled by destination hall control. Next, please. Everywhere within the lobby, you begin to sort of sense and experience the power of the structure above and the transfer. Next, please. Levels 1 and 2, you begin to sort of look down into the lobby below, but nowhere within the lobby are you not keenly aware of the Galleria space and the structure of the building. Next, please. And I told you I'd be brief. Thank you.
Okay, and the final regional award that we're going to award tonight is the project that we heard about in the conference today. It's the Tornado Tower in Doha, Qatar. And I'd like to invite onto the stage the owner of the building, Mr. Saeed Abu Odeh. Can we have a round of applause, please?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a privilege to me to accept this prestigious award on behalf of QIPCO Holding and my design team. As the owners of this iconic tower, we have maintained a presence and involvement in developing the inherent characteristics of Tornado Tower, but I should like to take this opportunity to express my thanks to all my consultants who have demonstrated their ultimate dedication and professional expertise in order to create and fulfill our expectations for this dynamic project. I would like to recognize Mr. Stuart Allen and Roy Robinson from CECO, and of course Frank Zabel, who unfortunately is not with us right now. I also wish to thank our program managers, ACOM, for a job well done, and our construction company, Six Construct and Midmac. Furthermore, our policy in respect of the built urban environment is such that we have exceeded the local regulations with regard to maximizing off-street car parking, maintained a substantial open cultivated external area pleasing to the eye from all directions, and utilizing all natural materials. In respect of the tower, we commissioned a lighting artist from Germany to design a unique tailor-made facade lighting system, which unfortunately we could not show you earlier. This computer-controlled system utilizes LEDs in each fitting, capable of producing 35,000 lighting variations. The external site lighting uses low-energy fittings and motion detectors. The life safety installations within the tower are in excess of NFPA and local statutory requirements, for which an independent third-party certification was commissioned and obtained by ourselves to this effect. Finally, and once again, and on behalf of my board of directors, I wish to thank you for the honor of awarding Tornado Tower and the best tall building of Middle East and Africa. Thank you very much. I think just one word. If you could go back, please, to the previous slide. If somebody could. The previous slide, please. I think this is just in brief, tells you the story of Doha. This is only in the past 4 or 5 years. And in the coming 5 years, the skyline will be double what you see today. It's a great land of opportunity for a lot of you. And I really would encourage most of you to come and see us and get familiar with Qatar and its development today. Thank you very much.
Okay, so which one of those 4 deserves the best overall? I'm guessing you've all got an opinion. Well, there's only about 5 people in this room that know that. And I want to invite somebody up on stage who's going to announce that and open an Oscar-style envelope. It's the provost of the university here at the Illinois Institute of Chicago, Alan Cram, and I just want to say that for all the great stuff that the council does, and you hopefully all agree that we are doing great stuff, we could not do it without the support of the Illinois Institute of Technology. So hopefully you will figure that in your applause as we invite Alan Cram up onto the stage. Thank you.
So I never thought I'd get to do this, but and the winner is Linked Hybrid.
Stephen Holl, architects.
amazing. I'm very humbled by this, but especially, it's only 22 stories, hit the tallest point. 21. So I feel really amazed at this moment, and I have to say that I just make watercolor sketches, and I really rely on everyone else, especially you and Joe. So it's really a group effort, and thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, we're almost done. It's been a long day. We have one final bit of tonight, and I think you've heard a bit about that today already. And it's a serious but fun time for the council, where we're handing over one chairmanship to another. And I turn to my notes, which say passing the gavel ceremony. We've already heard about this, and I think you're all aware that David is stepping down tonight, and Professor Sang Dae Kim is taking over. Professor Kim is going to tell us at the end of tomorrow a little bit more about his plan. But tonight we'd like to formalise that handover by inviting David and Professor Kim up onto stage for the official handing over of the gavel. If you didn't know what a gavel is, it looks remarkably like a wooden hammer. Can we have a round of applause, please, for David and Professor Kim?
It's been 3 years and 8 months, and 2 days and 23 hours. And it's been a blast. Just after about 6 months after I was appointed chairman, my good friend Anthony became a permanent member of our staff and has made a big difference. And, it is really because of you that we've managed to make great strides. What projects we've seen tonight, what people who care and who are so passionate about what they do, architects, engineers, developers, we've seen them all tonight. I have a few thank yous. First of all, I'd really like you to put your hands together to thank my wife, Mir M, for putting up with the time and effort. For putting up with the time and effort and the trips and the times away from home. Thank you very much. She's been a real supporter. Secondly, I'd like to thank the staff of the council who are way, way back there. Can you please stand up? Because it's really because, and Katerina, Anthony, and all the Jerry Kerry, who's been so much, all the part-time and full-time. Hey, there's many more of you back there. Where have you all gone? They're all working, Dave. Oh, they're all working, I'm told. Damn, that's what all keeps on happening. And as I said today, I have, it's a great pleasure that I hand over the gavel to Professor Sang Dae Kim. I've known Professor Kim for almost 4 and 5 years. And I think he can take the council where we're not. And where we're not as much as we want to be is in Southeast Asia. And as I said earlier, if Professor Kim can do half of what he plans to do, it will be an enormous success for the council. And he has every confidence of the Board of Trustees and all the members. So it's a great honour for me this evening to pass over the gavel. And when I did this, when I had my ceremony, we did it in a small office in front of a small committee. And there were 10 people here, and Ron passed it over to me. And so it is a great honour for me to be able, in front of 380 people, almost none of whom have left, and that's because it's pouring with rain outside, of course. But it's a great honour for me to be able to pass this to Professor Kim, and I'm sure you will wish him all the success in the future that we have managed to have so far. So Professor Kim,
Well, thank you, David and Anthony. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sang Dae Kim, Professor of Structural Engineering at Korea University. I have been a member of this council for about 20 years. I was also the chairman of organizing committee of 2004 Seoul Conference. I am really honored to be the next chairman of this renowned organization. I truly appreciate those who recommended and support me for this position. During the past 3 years, this council has made great progress due to Mr. David Scott and his excellent leadership. Additionally, this council had had great leaders since it was founded in 1969. The first chairman was Professor Lynn Beedle of Lehigh University. Since then, we had 10 great chairmen. All of them greatly contributed to our council. Now I would like to ask you to give them a big hand of gratitude for their leadership and contributions. As the next chairman, I have several goals for the progress of this council, especially during this time of economic difficulties. I would like to pay attention to our council's financial stability first. Therefore, I'm going to use this gavel to bring many corporations to join us as our members. If they don't listen to me, I'll use this gavel. I would also like to pay attention to people in practice as well as academic field. Also, I would like to contact many experts from all around the world, including Asia, in order to bring them into our council. Again, if they don't listen to me, I still have this gavel. Again, there are many goals I'd like to mention. However, I'll post them in detail on our council's homepage. Once again, I deeply appreciate all the members who named me the chairman of this council. And I'm looking forward to the next 2 years as we support each other to make our council successful. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
However, we can't let David go just as easily as that, can we? David said something today which I wasn't going to bring up, but he brought it up, you know, that we spent 3 years arguing like cat and dog. And, you know, that's not quite true. But I do want to say one thing. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with David, and we have not seen eye to eye at all on all issues. And actually, I actually think that's been, you know, one of the great things about what we've achieved in the council in the past 2 and 3 years, together with the trustees, with the leaders and the staff. One thing I would say with certainty is wherever there has been a difference of opinion, one of us has come round to the other way of thinking. And I think that's been to the betterment of the council. We're going to finish with a little bit of something light-hearted on David, which hopefully you will appreciate. Before we start with the 2-minute video we've put together, we did a bit of research, and you're going to be surprised to know that the world in general, but the US in particular, anticipated David Scott's chairmanship of the council by 77 years in advance of him taking up that position. And our research uncovered this project, which is a real project, in Detroit called the David Stott Tower. They just got one letter wrong. This is a real, is anyone from Detroit? This is a real project. And we were amazed by this, that they anticipate David 77 years in advance. But we have a few images and a little bit of a video just to say goodbye to David. Let's play it. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you please to be upstanding for our great chairman and my great friend, David Scott, please. Okay, good night everybody. That is it. The coaches are outside. We look forward to seeing you for day 2 of the conference tomorrow. Thank you.